To me, this is an amazing proposal because very rarely do you have so few people do so much damage to so many to get so little benefit. This is going to take money from a whole range of things, water projects that some communities desperately need, fighting the pine beetle, which is really devastating our forests and the economy in some parts of our state and could lead to fires, and other issues that we have, to take what for them is a huge amount of money and put it into transportation where it's going to be an almost insignificant addition. These millions of dollars sound like an awful lot of money, but when you look at our billion-dollar transportation budget, they're not that much. And I don't even really understand why it says that it's going to benefit I-70, because the congestion issues on I-70 are not easy fixes. It's not like putting in an on-ramp or putting in an extra lane here or there and you slap it together and get it done. When you're talking about relieving congestion on I-70, I think the plans start at about $5 or $6 billion and go up. So this is not going to do anything for I-70. And the other thing it does, which I think is a problem we have in this state, which has caused us problems in the past, we put things in the Constitution which then can, for all practical purposes, never be changed. This now says that the money that comes from the severance tax will be spent on this and nothing else. If the priorities of the state change, people can't change it without going through an enormous lot of trouble. I hope that as the state will move away from putting everything in the Constitution, tying the legislature's hands, tying the public's hands when it comes to setting priorities, and move toward being able to decide what the state needs and put the money there. This goes the opposite direction. This says, let's let a small group of people convince us to put money into one thing that can never be changed. We do need to fix the transportation system in this state, but it's going to cost money and it's going to take time, and we need to think it through. To simply say we're going to wipe out an entire area of the budget and have to replace that money with something else, to do this, I think, is not a good way of planning for the future of the state. And when people come to the legislature and say, we really need to enhance the water supply, we're in the middle of a drought, we need to do things on the water supply, what's the response going to be? I'm sorry, that money all went to I-70 or to a transportation project in Aurora. And since the money really isn't going to help I-70 and the legislature is going to make the decision, the legislature is going to put it into something that is causing the most trouble for the most amount of people. So what will probably happen is we'll take all of this money away from water projects, which help the West Slope and the San Luis Valley and northern Colorado, and we'll put it into some kind of a road project in Denver metro area. And maybe that's the right thing to do, but to have the whole state vote and put it in the Constitution seems like the wrong way of going about it. We need to let this money go to the important priorities this state has. We need to work against the pine beetle and the damaging effects of it, to prevent fire, to preserve the economy. We need to fight the zebra mussel. We need to put money into clean energy. And we're going to be cutting all of those projects to put what amounts to a relatively small amount of money into the enormous problem we have with I-70 and transportation. You're absolutely convinced that you can get something for nothing. Don't waste it on this. Go out and buy real estate with no money down, or take one of those Nigerian investment deals, because at least then you'll be going for the big money and it's going to work out the same. This isn't going to solve any transportation problems. It simply isn't. What it's going to do is take money from a lot of important things: fighting the damage caused by the pine bark beetle, protecting ourselves from the drought with water projects. It's going to take that money and put it into the enormous pile of money we have going to transportation, where it's not really going to make very much difference. The fact is, you really can't get something for nothing. Now, when you look at a budget, it's easy at the end of a legislative session or at the end of a family meeting to say, well, we're not spending the money where I want to, so I'm going to try and end around it. But the fact is, the budget's a collaborative process. You get together and decide what the state's priorities are. And this not only reverses what the state made a decision on, it does it permanently, forever in the Constitution. And that's just not the way to go about things in the future. If a year from now, because of all the dead trees from the pine bark beetle, we have enormous forest fires, people are going to say the state needs to do something about it. But this money will be locked away into some highway project somewhere in the state where it's not going to really make a difference statewide. When somebody says this drought isn't ending, what are we going to do so we have water for our homes, so we can maintain agriculture, so we have water for recreation? This money won't be available like it is now to work on those issues. It's going to be locked away. We have to stop locking away money into special interest projects and leave it open so the state can set priorities. Well, I think the first question is, with this $100 million, what are you going to do on I-70? Do you think you're going to build a double stack, which is one of the proposals? Are you going to build light rail for $100 million a year? I mean, there's really no proposal to fix the I-70 problem that you can address for $100 million. I-70 has serious problems. It's an interstate passageway. It's the major road to one of the big tourism industries in the state. It connects the east-west part of the state, but it also runs through narrow canyons. That means you can't just widen it out. It also means you can't just shut it down while you build something, kind of the way we did with Glenwood Canyon back when we were doing that. It's a big problem, and saying that we're going to take money away from water, and we're going to take money away from low energy income assistance, and we're going to take money away from clean energy, and we're going to put it into some small project on I-70 just doesn't really make sense. And I'd be interested to hear what people actually think is going to happen with this money. The other thing is, we have a very, I think, a pretty good system in the state for deciding where money goes in transportation. We have a non-political board. We have people all around the state that sit on regional commissions, which then make recommendations to a state commission, which then decides what transportation projects are most beneficial for everybody. This is going to change that. This is going to take the money and say, let's give this to the legislature and let them decide what they're going to do. First, that's going to leave two plans, the legislature's plan and the Transportation Commission's plan. That's not a very good way to go about it. Second, it's going to become a big fight about who has the political power to get the money put in their backyard. And worst case scenario, this $100 million goes to fund a bunch of bridges to nowhere in Colorado. Best case scenario, it goes to something good, but doesn't make enough of a difference to really justify the terrible cost of it, which is being able to do water projects to get us through the drought, being able to fight the pine bark beetle, being able to regulate the oil and gas industry, being able to invest in clean energy. Those are the costs, and I just don't see any benefit that weighs well against those costs.